Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Uh, this is Apparition. Before I start my video, I would just like to point your direction to my fair use notice. Most of the time, I simply reference materials or articles or videos that I see. I don't actually put it, I try not to put those things into my videos, but I reference them to make an argument. I also provide general legal advice for educational purposes. So, so I have a disclaimer for that as well, just so that people know that I'm not intending to give a specific person legal advice. And any materials or any articles that I mention in the video will be linked in the video description below. Thank you. Becoming self-sufficient and independent. This subject is important because it focuses on the practicalities of going your own way. Circa 1970s, the third wave feminist agenda has influenced the Western liberal democracies to become more collectivist, more socialist. To understand why this has happened, please see my video entitled Collectivism and the Individual Man. The short end of it is that feminists cannot survive without collectivism because primarily they need men to fund public programs. Many men have gotten caught up in this third wave feminist agenda without even realizing it. To pay taxes is to support the collectivists' feminist agenda. A lot of critics claim that feminism and MGTOW are opposite sides of the same coin. However, a critical difference is that feminists depend on men and MGTOWs do not need women. A case in point is Emma Watson's Him for Her campaign. Another example are the spectacular failures of Yahoo and Theranos Incorporated. Both companies placed women at the helm who drove their respective companies to the ground. At Yahoo, Marissa Mayer fired most of the men just before the company tanked. In countries like Canada and the United States, it is extremely difficult. It's becoming extremely difficult to work in a large corporation without the negative effects of feminization. There is anti-discrimination legislation that forces medium to large companies to sacrifice performance in favor of accommodating women. If a man has a government job or a corporate position, he will inevitably encounter discrimination from female bosses and colleagues. To avoid this, he can start his own business or join a startup that consists of only men. At a startup, a man will likely obtain stock options cheaply, work hard to make the company successful, and become wealthy in a few years. By the time the company becomes successful, women would have infiltrated it. This is the new reality in the corporate world. When men truly go their own way, they achieve three main objectives. They improve their own welfare, increase their independence, and stifle the state apparatus that props up the feminist agenda, all at the same time. As Angry MGTOW has mentioned, indifference is the most damaging blow to feminism. Similar to pacifism, which Gandhi used to bring down the British rule in India, indifference preserves energy whilst stifling the fodder for feminists. If men do not respond to feminists, then feminists cannot vilify men. By striking or walking off the plantation, men kill the socialist agenda. So how can this be done legally? The following is a list of skills that MGTOWs should seek to master. So the first thing I would suggest is becoming bilingual. Learn another language. Being able to converse in more than one language opens up markets and business opportunities. So 1.05 billion people in the world speak Mandarin. Another 490 million speak Hindi. Another 420 million speak Spanish. 510 million speak English, 230 million speak Arabic, and 213 million speak Portuguese. Um, Also, learning more languages makes a person smarter because it requires you to think differently about communication. There are very useful apps out there, like one called Duolingo, that you can use to revise and learn English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Dutch, Irish. I didn't know Irish was a separate language, but there it is. Um, Danish, Swedish, Russian, Ukrainian, Esperanto, uh, Polish, and Turkish. Also, there are useful YouTube channels like one called Lang Focus, which gives useful shortcuts for English speakers. For example, most English words ending in ity, like community, in Spanish ends in dad, as in comunidad. Learn a tangible skill. Men should know basic skills like tuning up a car and changing a tire. We should also be skilled in a particular trade: auto mechanic, carpentry, machine shop, welding. This is useful because employment can be found relatively easy in the trades. Also, being mechanically inclined is useful in your personal life. I grew up in North America where we had a very well funded secondary school system, and I went to a technical high school. There were a wide range of technical course offerings like electrical, auto mechanic, computer graphics, programming. I took machine shop up until the apprentice stage, and if need be, I could be a machinist today. However, I decided to go to university as a career path. Thinking in the trades helps one to be practical. It helps people to think tangibly about the world around them. So, in line with learning a trade, it's also useful to become educated in higher knowledge. So, this doesn't necessarily mean you need to be formally educated at a university, but I would suggest picking a topic, any topic like physics, art, philosophy, business, accounting, and learning it in order to expand your horizons and the way your mind thinks. The next step in order for men to be independent is to provide products and services. So men should foster independence by limiting their dependence on government institutions and large corporations. Strive to be a contractor, sole proprietor, or a corporate shareholder. Even in our current gynocentric welfare state, there is still a distinct tax advantage for business owners. Expenses can be written off and thus limiting tax liability. And aside from the tax incentive, owning a profitable business is far superior to trading time for money. Even with a substantial salary, there is little to no incentive for increased efforts. Trading blocks of time off segments of your day could be dedicated to things that you enjoy doing instead of just doing a job that you get paid hourly. Finding something you love doing, if you find something that you love doing, the money will come. There's another really good YouTube channel called actualize.org, um, which has valuable psychological tips and tricks to help a person get into the right mindset to be productive. The next skill I suggest is learning primitive skills and survival skills and getting off the grid. So there is a great channel on YouTube, another one. It's called Primitive Technologies that illustrates how to, for example, start a fire from stone and kindle, build a mud hut, plant potatoes, amongst other things. In the unlikely event of a total societal collapse, it would be useful to know how to survive with little supplies. That being said, it helps to be self-sustaining from the start. Three main public services that can be decentralized are electric generation, water filtration, and heating. However, quasi-governmental corporations that run these services are trying to prevent this from happening. Many large energy producers in the United States are allied with politicians to curtail or prevent the use of decentralized, financially viable, renewable energy sources. This is meant to keep the customer dependent on the system because they know energy production is inexpensive. The next thing I suggest in order to be self sufficient is to maintain dual citizenship. If you have parents from another country, like me, try to maintain contact with the fatherland. Um, Many countries allow children to adopt the citizenship of their parents, like Scotland. This extra citizenship can become very handy in the future if you fall foul of the law in your current country or you are trying to escape an oppressive tax regime or some other oppressive gynocentric policy. Note that it is a Note that if it is a serious indictable offense, you can be brought back via Interpol. It is always useful to have international ties and an internet based business so that you are not tied down to any one gynocentric locale. Second and third world countries are less developed, however, they're also less gynocentric. Gynocracies are expensive because they take money from productive middle class men for single welfare moms, feminist professors, and affirmative action programs for women, and many other wasteful, highly bureaucratic programs. Here is where multilingualism can be beneficial to the independent man as well. There are many great economic opportunities like teaching English or import and export for Western men in relatively safe non gynocentric countries like Poland, Ukraine, former Yugoslavia, um, Morocco, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, Bermuda, Bahamas, Barbados, St. Kitts, Kazakhstan, Peru, Argentina, Chile. This is by no means an exhaustive list. Other more risky escapes are Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, or more commonly known as the BRICS, Nigeria, and Azerbaijan. Despite increased media coverage of wars around the world, global instability has significantly subsided in many hotspots like the Balkans, South America, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and other parts of Africa. Even in areas where tension is high, like in the Middle East, the conflicts are relatively well contained. For men who are from countries other than the United States, the IRS requires reporting no matter where you earn. There are distinct tax advantages too. You can register as a non resident in your home country and work for tax free salaries in countries like UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. A great example of how Western men are making money abroad. There is a really cool Vice documentary called Africa's Cowboy Capitalists. I'll leave a link in the description below. So, in conclusion, it is not necessary to obtain all of these skills at the same time or even to obtain them all. But these are just advice to, help our MGTOW brothers become more independent and less dependent on the gynocentric system set up to oppress and enslave us. Thank you for watching. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and comment. And also visit my Patreon page as well as my GoFundMe page. And if you'd like to donate, you can do that via PayPal. I also have a Bitcoin wallet. Um, and currently, those are the two methods of donation. Um, and if you have a special request, you can message me and I'll try to answer you. And also, you can hit me up for advice on how to be an independent MGTOW.